This is the Mindspace TV show. Welcome to another mind-blowing episode of the Mindspace TV show. On this show, we talk about everything mental health and therapy, pain, mental wellness, addiction, sexual health. We talk about everything mental health. We have an expert with us today who is going to talk about overcoming addiction, and I cannot wait for this. But before we go on that, we'll go on a short break. Stay tuned. As Africans, whenever we hear the words mental health or therapy, we often think in extremes, being mad or roaming the streets. On this show, we are here to change that narrative. Together, we'll explore practical real-life solutions, speak to leading mental health experts in Africa, and correct false assumptions. This is not just about awareness, we are about action.
If your sexual health is not in a good state, have someone you can talk to.
You can go to therapy to better yourself.
I'm Fauzia Zakaria, and this is the Mindspace TV show. Healing begins with understanding, and understanding begins here. Welcome back to the Mindspace TV show. We have a psychologist and life coach here with us to talk about overcoming addiction. My name is Fauzia Zakaria, and with me here is Faith. Faith, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Faith Wea. I am a psychologist, a certified life coach, and addiction treatment therapist. And I've been working in the field of addiction now for getting to 3 years.
We are so glad to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
And so we'll start from the base.
Okay.
What exactly is addiction?
So addiction is a condition, I would like to say, very severe, or rather critical condition, right? That involves an individual being compulsively using a substance or engaging in a behavior. So it's compulsive. You can't, it's something is pushing you. It's nothing that you can control. You've lost all control, right? So it's either you're using a substance or substances, or you're engaging in a behavior, regardless of how risky and the negative effects of that behavior.
And you mentioned one word that I really like, critical. And we hear this like he's in critical condition when someone is like very close to death. Sometimes one might say in the hospital. So will you consider addiction something very serious like that, like very critical?
To be honest, it depends on what the person is addicted to. It depends on the type of addiction itself, or rather the class of addiction.
Okay.
So, for example, the most popular we know is substance addiction, right? Those are people that deal with illicit drugs. There's also sex addiction, pornography addiction. Those ones have to do with behavior.
Yeah.
So there are, for example, the one I'll say it's the most critical is substance, because it's harming your body, your physical body, right? There are addictions that are not really harming your physical body, like let's say social media addiction, but then they also have effects. So I'll say the critic, like how I'll rate if an addiction is critical. All of it is critical. I'm not disregarding any. It's by the type of the addiction we are dealing with.
Okay, you've been mentioning types of addiction. Can you run us through the different forms addiction can take?
Okay, so to break it down easily, right? I'll put it in classes.
Okay.
So we have the first one that always stands alone, substance addiction. We have behavioral addiction. We have emotional and psychological addiction. We have technological or digital addiction. So now what will come under substance addiction is like alcohol dependency, drug addiction, but in professional terms, we actually call it substance use disorder. Then for behavioral addiction, we say things like pornography addiction, gambling addiction, eating addiction, which is also an eating disorder. We could also say one more. Which one can I think of? Let's say sex dimension, sex addiction. Those are behavioral addictions. Then for emotional and psychological addiction, I could say things like the need for validation. Some people constantly need that validation. It's just a compulsion. Someone can walk into this room now, and just has to get our attention. That's an addiction. You're addicted to that drive. It's, So it could also follow as a disorder, but also that's the type of addiction under emotional. Some is they're addicted to relationships. Then for digital or technology, we have social media addiction, internet addiction. There are lots. Video game addiction. Yeah, just as so.
Wow. So, what it sounds to me like now is that anything could be an addiction.
Yes. If I'll say yes, depending on the yes. People have television addiction. I have carbohydrate addiction. Let me not lie to you. You see me and bread, you can't keep us apart. I'll say my weight loss journey so far is bread that has been stopping me. Carbohydrate, like it's a class of food, right? It's meant to fuel my body, but I'm addicted to it, so it's now causing harm to me. Someone can have addiction with writing. It's a compulsive behavior. It's something we just do regardless of. So even if it's affecting us, you can't stop it. You just still do it.
Right. Okay. Can you tell us how, what are the roots of this addiction? You've mentioned different types. So what is that thing that will cause someone to be addicted to sex, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol?
There are lots, but I'll just go over general causes and the ones that I've seen in sessions with my clients. The most, I don't want to, should I say popular, is trauma, unresolved trauma, underlying trauma, anything related to trauma, right? That's the most popular one. Just some form of trauma. You've been in an abusive relationship, or you're attached. You didn't form a good attachment style while growing up. You have a bad relationship with your parents. You had a bad experience. Trauma. That's one of the causes of it, right? Another thing is mental health, poor mental health. You see people depressed and having anxiety, and then the way to cope
Will be
through, let's say, substance.
Yeah.
Or for some people that, okay, let's say someone who, let's ideally say their personality is being introverted, right? And they constantly feel lonely by just being inside. They don't understand that aspect, right? They see sex as a need of connecting to someone, and then they start to do it, and they need more and more of it to feel like they're connecting to someone. It turns into an addiction. And what other cause? Stress is another cause of it. Medical students generally will tell you, oh, I started smoking weed because the stress is too much. I needed to deal with the stress. I worked in a rehab where we had 6 medical doctors. Why? Because I needed to cope with the stress. The pressure was too much. It was a lot of stress. So stress is another factor that pushes people. So, and then it could lead to the coping mechanism. Okay, let me put it this way, right? When we have one of these factors, it could be trauma, it could be stress, it could be poor mental health, right? We are looking for a coping mechanism to get over with it, right? So the coping mechanism we develop, if it is not a healthy one, then it's now what? So if I'm having stress, or assuming I'm having marital issues with my husband, right? And I decide to go into, let's say, from the classes of, let's say, social media now. And then social media, once my husband starts talking, I just pick up my phone and start scrolling, and it becomes an addiction and a coping mechanism for me. It starts to affect me without me really. So that's a coping mechanism for me, that because this issue was not resolved, each time it comes, I fall back to it, and then it became a pattern, eventually an addiction.
Before we get on, I'd like to ask, like, you mentioned coping mechanisms. So what are, just highlight a few positive ones before you go into the rabbit hole of when you're depressed or when you're feeling stressed, because stress is everything, something everyone can relate to, you get, and I'm sure there are thousands of medical doctors who go through stress every day, or medical students, So what are some positive coping mechanisms that we can use?
Okay. So the one I'll always recommend is take walks. Exercise, take walks, exercise, and also what you're listening to, what's the thoughts you're focusing on when you're taking those walks. Very important, because you can take a walk, you can breathe through people that are stressed, right? Give someone an audio of all the negative things, right? And worry, and then give me like positive affirmations to listen to. I'm okay, I'll be fine, everything, and then both of us walk the same distance, that person will come back more stressed. Why? Because of the thoughts. So some people are taking walks and they are just ruminating on the problem. I need to pay this person so amount of money. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, my rent is due. Take walks. Just remain positive when you're taking. That's how I want to frame it. Remain positive. Listen to calm music, not overstimulating music. I know it will give you that, boost energy. You want to listen to calm music or affirmations or maybe podcasts or just want to get a mantra of positive thoughts. You could just be saying, oh, my life is perfect, and you're taking the walk and coming back. That's what I always recommend. Take
So
walks.
mindful positivity. So let's go back to addiction now. You mentioned how addiction, the root causes. Now, how does addiction affect one person? How does it affect that person? And we are all a function of our society. So how does it affect the individual? Affects the individual's family. Affects the individual's community. How does addiction,
Affects one?
Yeah.
So addiction actually affects one in different
ways?
Sorry, I'm a professional, so I always like to classify it, right?
Yeah.
It affects one's mental health. It affects one's physical health. It affects one's relationship. Or if I'm using the wheel of life, we look at different aspects of. I think that would be easier for the common man. Let's start with the person as an individual. It will affect productivity. It's may for some people. It may boost. I'd like to be open-minded because every day in this job you're like, eh? But the book said it's meant to be like this. How are you telling me this is? So for some people, apparently, but from research, it's not meant to. So it affects your productivity. It affects yourself. Not yours, please, not yours. It affects the person's. It affects the person's productivity. It affects the person's self-esteem. It affects the person's confidence, self-image, basically. And then emotionally, right? It affects the person's mental in terms of depression can kick in, anxiety. If the person is into something like substance use abuse, right? There's something called substance-induced, let's say, so from using that thing, right, from using substance, it leads to another disorder. So we can say substance-induced depression. The depression was caused by substance-induced schizophrenia was caused by the use of substance, right? So if the person is addicted to substance and the person is not careful, right, it will lead to other. So it affects the person's physical health too, in terms of if you're overdoing it, too much of everything is bad. Too much of everything is bad. If it's an overeating addiction, you just overeating, gain weight, it's bad. Substance, the same thing. It can affect your liver, kidney, your organs, basically, right? So it has that. And then relationship with others. We have isolation in terms of you may isolate yourself or people might isolate that person. If they realize, oh, I don't want to be associated with this thing you're doing, they may isolate you, right? Or social withdrawal, which is one of the most common. When someone starts to get addicted, right, they start to. Sometimes it could be because of shame. Other times it could be because this thing is taking up so much of their time. They don't have time to do other things. Yes, another thing is it's sort of weakens your time management and productivity. Yes, so that's that. Also, it breaks trust. Constant disputes, it breaks trust. People may not trust the person like that and there may be disputes, there may be fights, misunderstandings. So those are ways I can say addiction can affect someone.
Yeah, they sound really, they affect someone deeply and then their environment deeply. And I think one thing that you mentioned that is very interesting to me, I think, is that you said one of the root causes of addiction is things like depression and anxiety. And then you say that one of the effects of addiction is also, substance-induced depression, substance-induced anxiety and things like that.
That's if the addiction, the person is into a substance, like or rather, the thing the person is addicted to is substance, then it can lead some of the effects. It's very broad, right? You can't really narrow it down. It's everything is interrelated. Everything is interrelated. It's like me explaining mental health now. I will still have to use the mental health disorders to explain the symptoms, right? So it's all interrelated.
So the root causes and the effects too are all interrelated.
Yes.
Okay. We've been talking to Faith Weir about addiction, its root causes and its effects. But right now we're going to go on a short break. And when we're back, we'll talk about the path to recovery from addiction. Don't touch that dial.
In a world oversaturated with sugar-coated talk, this is the space where comfort zones go to die and real conversations come to life. This isn't your average talk show. This is the Colosseum of intellectual rebellion and revolution. Here we break boundaries, challenge the status quo, and tear down the walls of mainstream thinking. I'm not here to sugarcoat the truth, and I'm certainly not here to make it comfortable. I'm here to disrupt. No filters, no safe zones. Here we address the topics that make you uneasy, conversations that stir discomfort and provoke reactions. I talk about the things they don't want you to talk about, the things that challenge your very beliefs, that spark debates, that make us question who we are and what we stand for. You might not like what you hear, you might not agree, and that's okay, but what you will do is think, and that is exactly the point. This is not about offering easy answers, it's about asking the hard questions no one dares to raise. So if you're ready to push past the noise, if you're ready to get uncomfortable, then buckle up, because the disruption starts now. I am Jay Harbour, I am the Disruptor, and this is Disruptive with Jay.
Welcome back to the Mindspace TV show, and we've been talking to Faith. We are a psychologist and life coach, and she's been telling us all about addiction. Right now, I'm going to ask her a question about the recovery. Now, you've spoken about the root causes, you've spoken about the effects, how they affect our mental health. But how can someone recover from any sort of addiction that they have? What are the steps?
Okay. The first step, I would say for anybody, is acceptance. You need to accept, because you need to accept that, okay, I have this problem, I need to seek help for this problem, and I need to get over the problem. There are some sort of addictions that is too shameful for you to open up and say it, especially if you have a status or a reputation to uphold, right? We are in Africa, let's be realistic. Imagine a pastor coming out to seek help for having sex addiction, like, pastor, pastor, like, don't you preach that like every Sunday? So some of them, it's so hard to admit that you're suffering from this, because it's like, oh, I'm already thinking the stigma, you know, and stigma is just basically stereotypes that people have formed and a lot of myths concerning addiction. So if people are going to judge me, people may go away from me. If you have a reputation, as I said, to uphold, like you may not want to lose the people. So as you have to accept it first, own up to it, build that confidence, and then come out and accept that, okay, I have this problem. I'm just a human being after all. I'm first a human being before I am this status or this I am a human being before I am a psychologist, right? I'm a human being before I am a pastor or a politician. Exactly. I'll say the second step too is identifying your triggers. Know what triggers you. Triggers are basically places, people, objects, senses. Let's say your senses, what you see, hear, smell, touch, that will trigger, that will lead to cravings, right? Because your memory has associated those stuff. So it could be this dress. Let's assume the last time I had alcohol, I was wearing this shirt. If I'm folding my clothes and I've not had alcohol in 2 weeks and I see this shirt, I'm like, your brain just automatically remembers that feeling. If it was a good feeling, right? And it has associated it. So you know your triggers. There are internal triggers that comes from within us. Those are mostly emotions. If you're angry, do you run back or fall back to this addiction? If you're sad, if you're annoyed, and then there are external triggers. So it could be when you're home, when you're at home alone. So for someone who is battling with who is experiencing pornography addiction, right? Being alone in a space, in a confined space, could be a trigger. Nobody's here. Nobody's going to see me. Let me just... Exactly. Someone who is into substance use, it could be going to a particular place. They know you here. They know you drink down 10 crates and nothing will happen. So when you go there, you have a reputation to uphold of drinking 10 crates and nothing will happen. And then you fall back into that pattern. And then before I move on to giving the other practical steps, right, I want people to know that relapse is a part of the healing process of the addiction. When a child is learning how to walk, you fall, you stand, you fall, you stand. Don't put the pressure on yourself that, okay. And depending on the type of addiction, some are hard to break because addiction changes the pattern of your brain. I don't want to go into, I've been trying and holding myself not to go into the chemistry of addiction. So far, I've not spoken on dopamine, neurotransmitters, and also I don't confuse people. But addiction changes the pattern of your brain. Like addiction happens mostly at the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which handles impulsivity and decision making. So it makes it less effective in those two areas. So once your impulse is weakened, that's why you can't control it, because the impulse is weak, right? And decision making has been impaired. So you don't really rationally think before doing this stuff. So don't put the pressure on yourself. It will take time before you recover. That's the first thing I should have said. Relapse is part of the healing process. Don't beat yourself up. Start again. Stand up, start again. Stand up, start again. And it's always a discovery journey. So once you've identified your triggers, because your triggers are what leads to cravings, right? You want to then educate yourself and understand the withdrawal symptoms you may experience. A lot of people ignore it. So when you're aware that the way the brain works is, once you're aware of it, right, it's easier to conquer whatever thoughts are coming to you. So if you're aware of your withdrawal symptoms, okay, once I stay off this thing for so period of time, I start to shake, I start to have brain fog, I start to sweat, I start to have anxiety. You don't just fall back into it because you're aware, okay, these are just withdrawals. It's like someone trying to trick you. You know, I beg, it's not, I will not pay attention to you. You're just trying to trick me. So it's easier if you're aware of them. Then what else? I'm trying to give people, because if I say go for therapy, obviously, not everybody may be able to afford therapy or rehabilitation. So I want to give things that people could do on their own before I go into the general tips that maybe everybody wants to hear. So know your triggers, withdrawal symptoms. Have someone you can talk to. Have someone you could talk to. Have that one person that you're sure would not judge you, because judgments can... what judgment and stigma has done to some of my clients, walk off. I'm just like, this is maybe not, but I'm like, if I catch this your parents, if I catch your mother, walk off 6 months that we've done. We just said one thing and then relapse. I'm like, but I don't really say that to the client, so that the client doesn't start to blame the mom, it's your fault or something like that. So have that one person that won't judge you, that is accepting you the way you are. I will not go and use you as bad example and say, I beg you, I don't want my children to be like you, stay away. Or no, have that one person. It doesn't necessarily have to be your family member, right? But I will advise your family member truly, because at the end of the day, I'll advise a close family member. I would not exactly recommend parents, but depending on your type of relationship, because most times, parents are just parents trying to protect you. So the approach they may use may not be the approach they need to use exactly. So I'll say go for friends, go for mentors, go for people you look up to, and most importantly, people that have been there before you. That's where joining support groups comes in. You could find an addiction support group. You could find, if it's all substance the person is trying to break from, you can find alcohol anonymous groups, narcotic anonymous group. Just check for support groups, or narrow it down to addiction support groups, because you have people that are sharing the same experience there. So you need to have a community. Remember, it's the person fighting against the mind, and you try as much as possible not to be alone. Like, have the positive community there with you. Another thing is identify your thoughts. Thoughts are what leads to, identify your thoughts. What are you constantly thinking about? You need to replace your thoughts, right? And then beliefs play a very big role in overcoming addiction. Some people say, this thing, I've had clients say to me, I can never stop smoking, And I try to use the meta model of NLP and ask them, who said you can never stop smoking? Where was it written? Show me. If you can give me evidence, then I'll believe that you can never stop smoking. Who said it? Who wrote it? Is it in the museum? Let's go and look for it. Or someone will tell you, this thing, it can never, if I stop it, I will die. Did you stop it? Did you die? Stop it. Just stop it first, then we'll see if you die. Just so you want to counter your own thoughts, right? And set goals. You need to set goals that, okay, this is this, this is this, this is that. I don't want to do this for so period of time. And most importantly, take it one day at a time. First, overcome today. Leave tomorrow. Today, I'm not going to drink sugar today. That's what I do with myself. I'm not going to drink sugar today. I don't worry about if I'll crave sugar tomorrow or next, or what will happen. Today, I'm not going to take sugar. And I am determined. And I finish today, I don't take sugar. Tomorrow again. Today is another day that I'm not going to take sugar. So just take it one day, live one day at a time, right? Then now moving on to the proper, I always recommend seeing a psychiatrist if you're dealing with addiction, severe addiction. There are addictions that are still, there are stages to addiction. That's just where the person starts, and then it gets to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember, like curiosity, experimenting. Thank you. The first stage is experimenting. When it's, let me try it now. They say this one will help you stress. Let me just try to experiment. And then you get to the next stage whereby it now becomes a daily thing. So you do it every day. It gets to the next stage where you now become dependent on it. And there's a difference between dependency and addiction. Sorry, let me just clarify that right. Dependency deals more with when your physical body is reliant on this, but addiction deals with both the physical, the mental, emotional, everything. So the third stage is when you get dependent on this thing. So your body, like when you try to stop, even your body is, I remember when I said I was addicted to social media. I'm not going to check my phone 1 hour after I wake up. Hey, I used to wake up with headaches. That was a withdrawal symptom, and it's normally so you could be dependent and experience withdrawal symptom. Headaches for me were withdrawal symptoms. So what do? I pick up my phone, I distract myself, and the headache is gone. For some people, it could be restlessness. Also, another withdrawal symptom, I used to be so agitated. In the morning, don't talk to me. I'm in a very bad mood. Why? Because I have not checked my phone. My brain is used to that pattern of I check my phone and then it gets all the dopamine it wants and it feels good. So now I'm not feeding it with what I normally feed it every morning. Of course, it is angry. What do you mean we cannot enter Instagram and see what's happening? So, but now I've done it in such a way that I can go a whole day. I don't check my phone. It takes maybe something. Oh, it's true. Let me see. Or maybe I see something. Maybe I see my therapy, my therapist NG. I'm like, let me follow my therapist NG on Instagram, and I enter Instagram. That's it. So it's a process. I didn't get there one day. I got there maybe in almost a year. But you still have to keep going. So.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've dropped a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, but one thing I'm taking away is take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And, it leads me to this question we have from our audience, which is, what is the first step to take if I suspect I have an addiction? Just that one thing, that first thing I should do.
You seek help. I will recommend, regardless of the stigma, to go to a rehabilitation center. It's addiction. First, go to a rehabilitation center. See a psychiatrist or a psychologist. If you cannot afford that, then I would want you to just go online and check on like inventories or just maybe online assessments you could take.
Thank you very much, Faith. So you heard it, seek help. Faith, you've been so wonderful with the knowledge that you've spread. I think I have learned a lot from this episode. I've learned how, there are stages of addiction. There's different kinds of addiction. And that the first thing for overcoming addiction is you have to admit it to yourself. And, after admitting it to yourself, you can go on to do further work. And then, like I said, the nugget that I've taken from this is take it one day at a time. So thank you very much, Faith, for sharing your experience and, your knowledge with us. I'm sure the audience loved it. If you need any help or if you need to seek any help with addiction or you need to speak to a therapist or a professional, you can always go to mytherapist.ng, get the app, and you get access to different mental health specialists and therapists that can help you with this. Thank you, Faith, for dropping this with us, and thank you for staying with us. And, see you on the next episode of the Mindspace TV show. I remain your host, Fauzia Zakaria. Thank you.